Hey, and welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Target's Attitude, absent-minded professor of knives and all things sharp. Sit on back, grab your beer, because it's not class time today. We're just going to be rambling on a wee bit. As many of you know, I've been driving towards 1,000 subscribers, hit 500 just around Christmas time, and gave away a knife to celebrate right around New Year's. Well, we're going to do the same thing for when we hit 1,000. Whatever knife I do a review of that gets the most number of views between New Year's and the day we hit 1,000 subscribers, that's the knife I'm going to give away. And who knows, I might just decide to give away two. We'll see what happens. Depends on how fast I get there and how good business is going for me. And on that, just wanted to touch on a couple little highlights. As you know, Blade Show's coming up. My daughter and I have gone every year except for 2020 when COVID shut down the show. It's a hell of a show, man. It's fantastic. We have a blast every year. And if I can get well over 1,000 subscribers, I might be able to get a media pass to let me shoot and stream live from the Blade Show. That would be a blast. Love to have you help me out. As far as other things, well, brought along out something a little different to show you today. This is a Japanese non-commissioned officer sword. Actually, it's not quite what it said. It's a beautiful sword. Just very gorgeous. But, despite the fact that it's very nice, very well balanced, it's not the real thing. It's a reproduction. How do I know? Mainly because of this hilt. This hilt is brass. If it was a real thing, it would have been made of either copper or aluminum. Or, in the final year of the war, they did have some that were made of wood. This one's pretty decent. I mean, it's even got the right markings here for the armory. It's got the right style lap, and it works. This is wrong, though. Some Japanese non-commissioned officers' swords did have some engraving on the blade of this type, and most of the time it was a family prayer that the sergeant put on himself, or if his family had enough money, they would do it. The serial number is correct. And unlike a lot of replicas, this one does not have the fancy scene acid etched into the blade that a lot of them do. You would never see that scene on a real sword. Other problem is that you notice it's got a screw here instead of a pin. Admittedly, it's pinned over, which means that I cannot take it apart easily to check the hilt for maker's marks or anything like that. If it had been a real sword, it would have just had a pin that could have been carefully removed to see maker mark underneath. Now, not all Japanese NCO swords would have had a maker's mark because, well, sergeants were not officers, and therefore, by definition, not noble. Many of the officers had their own swords because they came from noble families. They had swords that have been handed down through the families for centuries. And those that didn't, for one reason or another, maybe they were a younger son or something like that, did get swords from the armory, but they were made by masters, so they would have master's mark engraved on the hilt underneath the handle, and the handle would be wood wrapped with silk, not cast bronze, brass, copper, or aluminum. But the NCO swords for sergeants weren't noblemen. They didn't need a sword in the eyes of their spears. They just needed a sword-shaped hunk of metal to encourage their men with. So most of the NCO swords were actually made in the same factories as the bayonets. If there was a maker's mark on it somewhere, it was normally that of a journeyman. So where did this particular one came from? Well, probably China. The Chinese started making knockoffs and replicas of these swords back in the late 40s and even mid 40s. They were selling them to American soldiers who wanted something to take back home with them. And most American soldiers didn't know that these were replicas, or if they did, they didn't care. It was still something neat to put on the wall, and they were paying ridiculously low amounts of money for it. So this is probably built late 40s, early 50s. And it's a really nice shape. So if I wanted to sell it, I could probably get between $200 or $300 for it. I doubt I'm going to. There is a chance that I'll go ahead and sharpen this, which I would never do if it was the real thing. It does appear to be decent steel, and it would just be fun to use and work with. Another thing you'd notice is that the fake edge goes all the way up to the guard. If it was a real thing, it would only come up that far. So yeah, it's a neat little thing. I'll probably put it on the wall of my office, and might even go ahead and have some fun with it. If I do, I'll take you along, do some videos of me cutting things with it. Excuse me, I got hiccups again this morning. But in the meantime, I hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you come along on my journey towards 1,000 subscribers, and we'll see what happens. If you liked this review of this sword and would like to see more historical things like that, go ahead and let me know down in the comments. I don't have that many at the moment, but my collection is always growing, and I wouldn't mind showing them off, or possibly even doing a field trip to the War Museum here in town. Maybe we can make arrangements with them for me to go over something they've got in their collection. We'll just have to see. Meantime, remember, maybe ability decides what you can do. Maybe motivation decides what you will do. But it's attitude that decides how well you do it. So if you're going to do anything, no matter how minor, do it with attitude. See you now. Bye.